KLEK 102.5 forecast. Partly to mostly sunny today, near 70. A south wind 10 to 15. Chance of a few showers overnight, mostly cloudy in the mid-50s. There's going to be a few showers Friday and Friday night, maybe a thunderstorm Friday night. The high Friday near 70, in the mid-50s Friday night. Showers and thunderstorms Saturday in the low 60s, clearing cooler weather in the 50s for Sunday. Your life, your music, we're KLEK 102.5 FM.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. White nationalist views could be banned under a new Facebook policy to stamp out hate, according to the tech firm. Austria says it might ban a far-right group linked to the suspect in the Christchurch attacks. Maltese forces have retaken a tanker which had been hijacked by migrants off the coast of Libya. And UK Prime Minister Theresa May is launching a new push for support for her Brexit deal, having promised to quit if it goes through.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Thursday to you. I hope that you're having a great start to your day. You're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. Today is a topic that is near and dear to me. We're going beyond the ribbon. Today, March is Lymphedema Awareness Month, among many other health issues. But today, this one is very special to me, and I'm happy to have some very special guests from Encompass Health Rehabilitation Hospital of Jonesboro. I'm going to start on my right, Miss Robin Jones, and I'll let her give you her title when we go around. And Miss Ashley, who's hiding, and Miss Donna Trevathan. Oh my goodness, I'm going to write that how it sounds. Miss Trevathan. They're all from Encompass. They're all, well, I call them lymphedema therapists, but they have other titles. So if you all would please go around and give your title and then what specifically you do at the hospital with your patients. And we'll start again on the right with Miss Robin.
Okay. I'm Robin Jones. I'm a physical therapist, first of all, but I'm also a licensed lymphedema therapist as well. We went to a certification course to get this lymphedema certification, so we did an extensive course and we are certified to treat patients with lymphedema. But my caseload is not just lymphedema patients. We have a caseload of all types of patients, orthopedic, neuro, lymphedema. So, we have a little bit of everything.
You see everybody.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Help them get back to their new normal and some type of normal way of life.
For everyone, yes.
Yes, all right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Miss Ashley, can you give us an introduction?
Yes, my name is Ashley Watson. I'm a nurse at at Encompass Health. Almost said Health South. Sorry about that. That was we were formerly Health South for a long time, but until January. And so one of my roles at Health South is actually community outreach. And so I do a lot of the support groups, and so that's why I am here to help with any of that support that they might need when it comes to community outreach.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Donna.
Well, good morning. I'm Donna Trevathan. I am a physical therapist at Encompass Health, and as Robin was saying, I am a certified lymphatic therapist, but also I do treat just a very diverse patient population. And so,
Right.
yeah.
All right, so I'm very happy that I have become connected with these ladies, and there's several other who are not here. Miss Chris Ashley, who's also, is she PT or OT? PT,
Yeah.
And also certified, and that's how I met these ladies. And then after we did luncheon, another lady and I and some others did the lunch and learn last year. We became connected, and you all started a support group, which has been very beneficial. So thank you all for taking the lead on that, and providing a space for those that are dealing with this condition to come and talk with others who are also dealing with the same issues. It's kind of frustrating when people don't know what you're talking about. They look at you and they think one thing, but they still have no clue, and then you try to explain to them, and they're still kind of like, what? So hopefully you all can help shed some more light on this condition and provide the listeners and viewers with some really valuable information. And hopefully they walk away with a better understanding and deeper compassion for those who do deal with it. So we're going to first get into a definition. What is lymphedema?
Okay, I'm going to read this straight off of some notes. Okay. Lymphedema is it's part of the vascular system. Okay, so the lymphatic system is part of the intricate vascular system in our bodies. The lymphatic system is responsible for draining fluids from the body's tissues and filtering the lymph fluid off of the body.
Okay.
And when a lymphatic vessel is blocked, as in the case with lymphedema, fluid can get backed up into an arm or a leg, any part of the body. Lymphedema can happen in any part of the body, the head, the neck, the trunk, a limb, so it can happen anywhere.
And unfortunately, I've seen some, and I say unfortunately because these individuals that have it in different places that you would never think. It's very life-altering for them, especially for men who get it in their groin area. It's awful if they don't get the proper treatment that they need in a timely manner. I have seen people with it in their face, not personally, just on pictures, but it still looks very uncomfortable because it makes the skin under your neck and around your face just swell and hang. And I can imagine how heavy that is as well for that individual.
Yes. And that heaviness causes pain for these individuals. So, it's not only do you look disfigured, but you also, there's the feeling of pain and, there's psychological implications with that as well, because they feel bad about themselves because they look different.
And that's one thing I don't think a lot of people really get, and I'm sure those that live with chronic illnesses and other things know what it's like to endure that psychological aspect of that condition as well. You may look and feel fine on the outside. You may smile and go about your day. However, on the inside, there's a storm brewing that you just cannot explain to people. And you just need a little compassion and a little understanding of what you're dealing with, so that you can just make it through the day without crying some days. All right. And so let's talk about the diagnosis. Now, this is one thing we've noticed, even in 2019, with the number of cases there are across let's just say the globe, because there are millions and millions of people that have been diagnosed or dealing with this condition. Why is it so hard to diagnose? How is it diagnosed? I don't know.
Well, it's difficult to diagnose because there's specific tests that they do. There's like dye tests that they inject into the lymphatic system, and that's probably not even done in this area. Okay. It's more like large cities where you can find specialists in lymphatics that do those really intricate type of testing. And in this area, it's just people, and even in the health field, it's not really that well understood. A lot of people go undiagnosed for years. Yes. And so it's a chronic illness before it gets diagnosed. So at that point, it's really, it's really involved for that patient. And it takes lots of time to unwind what's already been done in that year of, trying to get diagnosed or to try to find help. So,
what would be your suggestion to people who feel that something's not right with their body? And I've had this conversation with many other health professionals about paying attention to your body, noticing even those little minute changes, and going to the doctor or taking note and not letting it progress. But for people that feel like, okay, I'm either gaining weight, I'm swollen, I don't eat that much salt anymore, like for people in that category, what would you suggest to them to try to get a hold of, try to catch this before it gets out of hand? We don't want to scare anybody. However, you only have one body. You got to take care of it. What suggestions would you give?
I would suggest just continue to seek medical advice for this, and especially if you have someone that they try to treat you with diuretics and you realize the diuretics are not working to try to help alleviate the swelling, which with lymphedema, the diuretics are not effective. then just keep pursuing professional help until you can get with someone that can help you figure out the source of the swelling. And then, in fact, with the diagnosis of lymphedema, getting to someone who is a certified lymphedema therapist so that they can help you get through the complete decongestive program to help you manage the lymphedema.
Okay.
There's not a cure for lymphedema, but we can treat it and we can help you manage it.
All right. I've done some research, and it stated basically if someone is in stage 1 or 2, and I'll go through that. Definitely stage 1. It's, I hate to say reversible, but is it essentially almost reversible if you're in the 1 or 2 stage? And then let's go through the stages of lymphedema.
Okay. So the stages of lymphedema, there's stages 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So stage 0 is like a pre-stage or a latency stage with no visible swelling. Okay. So it's like if you have had a surgery, an injury, any type of like a lymphatic system injury, you could say, or trauma that doesn't develop lymphedema right off the bat. So it's kind of like you're in a latency stage. It could happen, but it hasn't happened yet. And then stage 1 is reversible lymphedema, where it is possible to completely remove the swelling. There's no fibrotic tissue, which is the hard tissue under the skin that's caused by the proteins that sit inside the fluid. There's no skin changes, no skin tumors, and the visible swelling may recede overnight in the early stages of stage 1. And then stage 2 is chronic irreversible lymphedema. So once you get to stage 2, it's not reversible anymore. So we can treat it, and we can get those fibrotic tissues most of the time to soften. And to kind of reverse, but the fibrotic tissue occurs because of the long-standing proteins that are in the fluid. So it causes the tissues to become hard, and the limb volume increases a lot with stage 2. So it's very difficult to get that back under control where there's no swelling. So at this stage, you're still likely to have some swelling even with the treatment of compression and doing the manual lymphatic drainage. And then stage 3 is usually involves extreme increase in limb volume along with progression of that hardening of the tissues, fibrosis. And oftentimes these patients have skin changes, and they can have funguses and ulcers and weeping, and where the fluid breaks out of the skin and those sorts of things.
And let me tell you, I don't talk about the tiny details about what I deal with, but yes, I am in that stage 3 category, and let me tell you, it's no walk in the park at all. It's very frustrating and very annoying at times, but I get up and get dressed and keep it moving, even on days when I feel like just shutting completely down. Life, I have to take care of business. Life goes on, so here we are.
Yeah, it does.
But for those of you out there that may feel like something is going on with your body, please go to your doctor and get it checked out. Don't ignore even mild swelling, because that's what happened to me. This was back in 2007 and 8. I was working at a job, and I noticed little fluids seeping through my skin. I thought it was just me gaining weight, working a desk job, not really being very active, not eating well. I brushed off as weight gain and swelling, and so brushed it off. Years later, the fluid stopped, but the swelling had just gotten really bad. My face was really puffy, like I would just puffy swell. It was a different kind of fat. Still brushed it off, and it wasn't until I got an infection that I went to the doctor. I had a sore red spot, went to the ER. They diagnosed it with cellulitis. Within a week's time, I had blisters pop up, all types of horrible things. And so I ended up going back to the ER a week later, they admitted me and finally got me on IV antibiotics, and here I am from that point on. And so, can you go through some of the, we talked about the treatments a little bit, compression wrapping, the lymph drainage. There are some surgical options, but I don't know if they're not.
Surgery is usually not really supported with lymphedema. It can actually make it worse.
Oh, okay.
So when we think about doing treatment for someone, there are 4 parts of that. Skin care is just critical, as you might imagine, that we want to help educate about how to take care of your skin so that you don't have further breakdown or any kind of infections that develop. Okay. We do the manual lymphatic drainage, which is a very light, superficial type of a process, because 70% of the lymph vessels are superficial. So a lot of times it's just, yes, and so many of our patients are really surprised by how light the touch is. Okay. And it's very directive towards bringing the fluid to healthier pathways.
Okay.
In fact, traditional massage is contraindicated for someone with lymphedema. It actually can make it worse. So it helps vasodilate the blood vessels, which can then cause more swelling. So it's really important for people to understand that. And then we do the compression bandaging to help bring that fluid to a healthier part of the body to pick that up.
And can you explain the difference in the bandages? Because I've also had people ask me, well, can you just use the ACE wrap? And it's a different kind of bandage, so can you explain that?
The bandages are used, they're short stretch bandages, and the way that they work, the working part of it and the resting part of it are completely opposite to ACE wrapping. So we would never use ACE bandages to bandage someone who has lymphedema. Okay. The other part of that is exercise. That's something that we really promote with this program. You would do your exercises while you're bandaged or after you've received your compression garments, because the muscles help work like a pump. So that helps with the process of controlling some of the swelling as well.
Okay. Concerning exercise, what do you recommend for someone who, say, was normally fit? They may go to the gym, run. Are those type of exercises still approved, or is the patient still able to do more strenuous things that they once did before? Or give us a breakdown of what you would recommend, the type of exercises, or maybe the longevity, or just what types of exercise.
We really stay truly conservative for the most part. When we're starting out with something, we choose exercises that are effective but in moderation, something that's not very strenuous, because if we want to stay away from strenuous exercises. Now, that's not to say that someone couldn't initially add a little bit more of a resistive program, but it's something that needs to be gradually worked into so that you can kind of see how your body responds to it. So typically when I start someone with exercises, I take them into a process of different muscle groups. I try to incorporate all the muscle groups to help serve as a pump. And I start out with very conservative repetitions, and then we build through those repetitions, and we monitor to make sure that it's not causing any further complications with the swelling.
Okay. I know there are several people that I follow on Instagram, and each person's at a different stage in their life, age and health-wise, and there's some that, work out, like literally lift weights and do all that sorts of things. So would you recommend, or what would you recommend, or what would you say to a patient that says, I want to continue lifting weights, either the leg pressing or the whatever they do, also with running, jumping? Would you tell them to maybe slow down or keep going at the pace you're going, or
definitely needs the education part, as well as knowing that you have to wear your compression garments when you exercise. You definitely want to have your garments on when you're exercising, and again, just kind of taking that into a progression and monitoring how your body responds to those things. And it's really important from the very beginning when you're working with a therapist to help them understand what your lifestyle is like.
Okay.
If you were a jogger before, or you want to play tennis, or you were a weightlifter, it's important for us to know that as well, because as we're thinking about the compression side of the garments for you, that will make a difference in kind of how we choose to help you manage that. And that's a little bit more important with someone. If I have someone who's going to be running 5Ks versus someone who just wants to stay active and do some gentle walking and exercises. So you don't have to give up those things in your life completely, but you do have to be mindful of it and take it at a pace and really watch what's happening to your body as you go forward in some things.
We're going to get ready for a break in about a minute and a half, but I want to throw in how important is diet and nutrition with managing lymphedema?
Oh, it's very important. You know, the old saying, you are what you eat, right? So, you know, it's very important to have like a low sodium diet if you have lymphedema, because the more sodium you take in, the more water you retain. Okay. Those kind of are magnetic forces for each other. So sodium attracts water. And if you already have lymphedema, you don't want more water buildup. So low sodium, and just trying to stay healthy, you know, lots of fruits and vegetables, and eating good proteins, and, you know, just having a well-balanced diet. You know, they say, a lot of the lymphedema gurus say like low carb diets are good, and a lot of that's coming out, you know, the keto diets and stuff like that. Okay. So, and I've heard that those are very good for lymphedema. Okay. So.
And I know not one diet fits all people, so
right.
Talk to your physician first before
different for everyone. Yes.
Before you jump into doing something. When we come back, we're going to continue our discussion of so many more questions. And I want to talk about pregnancy, long-term treatment, and so a variety of other things. So please stay tuned to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back after these announcements.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
How do you love the prickly people in your life? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute, and I confess I'm a porcupine, at least sometimes. The average porcupine has about 30,000 sharp quills that it raises up and shoots into another animal or person when it feels threatened or gets angry. Like a porcupine, when one of my trigger points is pulled, I can get pretty prickly, ornery, and downright cranky. One of those trigger points is unmet expectations. When I build up crazy high expectations for myself or others that are almost impossible to meet, I find myself feeling prickly when they don't get done. When I do, I might inflict some poisonous words on a person I love, and I can't blame anyone but myself. Well, read about my journey as a porcupine at markmerrill.com. Remember, your family first.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a non-profit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook and KNOMEGA1908.com.
Family Minute is brought to you by the Gears Foundation, a non-profit organization providing students with assistance in their academic and career pursuits. Gears Foundation on Facebook, Gears_Inc. on Instagram, and the Gears Foundation at gmail.com.
Help keep KLEK on the air. Give now during our spring fund drive. We are seeking 100 donors to give at least $20 per month, but we are happy with any gift, large or small. Come by our studio at 1411 Franklin Street in Jonesboro. Call us at 870-277-1080 or visit our website, klekfm.org, or you can use Cash App, $KLEKFM, or text KLEK1. Send it to 44321.
Centennial Bank, member FDIC, is a customer-focused bank that provides a broad range of commercial and retail banking and related financial services to businesses, investors, individuals, and municipalities. Centennial Bank has 9 locations in Northeast Arkansas. 870-268-2300. www.my100bank.com.
House of Details, located at 3915 East Highland in Jonesboro, is a proud supporter of KLEK, offering detailing on any type of vehicle: basic wash, hand wash, shampoo, interior cleaning, waxing, buffering, headlight restoration, pickup, delivery, and more, with a motto of anything mean we can clean. Details at 870-273-5187. House of Details on Facebook and at klekfm.org.
Hello, I'm Officer Victoria Evans. I have always had a desire to help others in need and to be an example and role model to young women by encouraging them to never give up on their dreams. My dream was to become a police officer and to serve my community. In 2016, that dream became a reality, and it is the most rewarding experience of my life. Now I want to let you know about the same opportunity. The Jonesboro Police Department will conduct testing every month for patrol officers. Applications are available online at jonesboropolice.com or at the Police Department, 1001 South Caraway Road. The Jonesboro Police Department offers a competitive salary, health, and retirement benefits, top-of-the-line training, and most importantly, the chance to make a difference in the Jonesboro community. Join me in making Jonesboro a better place. The Jonesboro Police Department is an equal opportunity employer, and women and minorities are especially encouraged to apply. More information is available at 870-935-5657.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM with my special guest, Ms. Robin Jones, PT and CLT, Ms. Ashley Watson, nurse, and Ms. Donna.
Oh, you got it right.
Trevathan.
Great job, Trevathan.
I had to whisper to make sure. All right, who is a PT and CLT. I hope that you all have been enjoying the first part of our conversation. Again, if you're just joining us, this is our Beyond the Ribbon discussion, lymphedema awareness. We want to take you beyond just, the color of the ribbon and the awareness day and the fun side of, the awareness aspect of a disease. Let's get down. We're getting down to the nitty gritty, the not so pleasant part of the discussion, but that is very essential. And I hope people are taking notes and walking away with a deeper understanding. So I want to say good morning to everyone that's watching and listening. Thank you for tuning in. First of all, we're just going to keep our conversation rolling. As I mentioned on break, I want to talk briefly about pregnancy. As we know, lymphedema mainly affects women. However, men are not exempt. But say for a woman who is in her childbearing ages and she either wants to get pregnant or she is pregnant, what are some recommendations you have? Aside, of course, talk to your doctor, but have you ever seen a pregnant patient that has lymphedema?
I have not. I have not treated a pregnant patient or a patient that was hoping to get pregnant either. I haven't experienced that yet. But if someone came to me and had that, already had lymphedema and was wanting to get pregnant, I would just have her talk to her OBGYN or her family doctor and just see what they recommend. Because, there are different stages of lymphedema and it's different for every patient. So, the degree of severity for one patient may be different than the other. And it would I would refer them back to their doctor and see what they recommend.
All right, and so let's go ahead and get into the different types. There's primary and secondary. So we discussed the stages 0 to 3, but let's talk about the types because I remember I recently was a part of a research or survey that some students at Arkansas State are doing, and they asked me, do you have primary or secondary? And I'm kind of like, I don't know, because some people can trace the origin of how they got it, and there are others like me who it just showed up one day. Or it may have already been in my system or my body, but it just showed up one day. So break those down, please.
Well, primary lymphedema occurs with usually in utero. So it's a malformation of the lymphatic vessels already in your body. And a lot of times with this, the patients have like a familial, like a mom or a dad had it, or a grandfather or grandmother had it, or they knew that someone in their family had swollen legs. So there's that aspect of it, and there are babies that are actually born with lymphedema, so they have malformation of the lymphatic system, and they're born with swelling of the limbs, which is very sad.
Usually I want to feel bad for those babies, but they look so like they seem like they're living a better life.
I mean, they're just fighters, you know. They don't know any different, so they're just happy little babies. Yeah. But they are also treated with the compression wrappings and the MLD. So yeah.
I know we only see glimpses of them at times, but I'm sure there are other times they're frustrated, like, what is this? Why do I have to do this? But for the most part, the kids that I've seen, they seem really happy and happy and full of life. I'll just put it like that.
Yes, yes. And you know, like I said, they don't know any different. That's just how they are, and they just deal with it. So, you know. Then there is, we talked about the primary lymphedema, which most often occurs in the legs. Okay. Then there's secondary lymphedema, which occurs it happens from an insult to the lymphatic system. So it's like a surgery or radiation after cancer, or a sprain or a break to a bone, or infection, trauma, cancer. So, you know, any of those types of things where there is something harming the lymphatic system, that's secondary lymphedema. So it's caused by something else.
Can lymphedema in the secondary form, can it show up later, much later after an injury?
Oh yes, it can show up years after an injury or cancer or any of those things. It can show up years afterwards. So
sometimes I wonder, again, how did I really get it? I was younger. My parents were older, a little older, and so they passed on before I got to the age where I knew to ask certain questions. And so I have no idea if my mom or my dad dealt with it, or I didn't know my grandparents well enough to even ask those questions either. And so I'm wondering if mine could be secondary. I worked many jobs on my feet. You know, could I have bumped, bruised, hit something? You know, could it have happened after I had a C-section from having my son? Like, I wonder where and when did it really occur?
Right, and it could have happened from any of those things that you just mentioned, because there are lots of surgeries to the abdomen that cause lymphedema. Even just fixing a hernia can cause lymphedema, because you cut through lymphatic vessels, and then that can cause a blockage because of the scar tissue that sits there. So, you know, anything could cause it. Right. And it is hard to trace, I think, sometimes with people, because they don't really know what they did to cause it.
So again, when you go to your doctor, have these conversations, or if you're having surgery, talk to your doctor about the complications that can occur after the fact. Do not ignore any signs or symptoms of whatever your body is going through. Again, the earlier the treatment, the better you are.
Yes, most definitely.
I can attest to that. I can say that all day long.
Yes.
Get treated early. Since I've been more vocal about my condition, I've had people ask me questions. One young lady talked to me about, she works a job where she's on her feet, concrete. She noticed one of her legs was swelling more than the other. I'm like, right now it could just be, the stress of work. It could be edema, and edema is different than lymph. Once it gets to that stage, we know the complications, but I told her, please don't ignore it, because it can get worse. So talk about the edema aspect, and do doctors often write off lymphedema as just edema?
I think they do a lot, and they want to treat it with a diuretic, or they want to see if you can change your lifestyle. and try to lose the edema or lose the weight. They may call it weight, excess weight or whatever. They may want to change the diet and try to see if other conservative measures will work first before they try to diagnose it as a lymphedema or something more serious. But edema is different than lymphedema. Edema is usually short-lived, so you roll your ankle or you sprain your knee and you have a little bit of swelling around the joint, or you bump your leg and it swells, but that goes away within a week or so, you would hope, right? Yes. But with lymphedema, that swelling does not ever really go away. You may see it recede at night or as you prop your leg or rest your arm, but then it comes back. So the more you're up and the more you're moving and using the arm or leg, the more it's going to swell. And so it's more chronic swelling that just sits in the skin. Yeah.
And as you were saying, this can develop years after. Some of my patients who've had mastectomies and had lymph node removal, they may have gone 13 years after that process and not had any issues, and then all of a sudden began to start having swelling in an arm, in an extremity. So it is very, it's definitely, you need to be aware of any onset of sudden swelling. And get to a physician, whether it could be blood clot related. You really need to have that physician to go through that process with you and have a good history of any kind of issues of, like what Robin was saying, surgeries or injuries or insults to the body or lymph node removal. So don't ignore it. Definitely get to your physician and seek the help that you need to try to get the answers regarding this onset of swelling.
Yes, ma'am. I actually met a lady the very first time I started going to Encompass, previously Health South. I was leaving and she was coming in, and she was wrapped from her, wrist, I guess, all the way up, and she even had something around her body because, again, she, I don't know if she had breast cancer, but she had started noticing the lymphedema developing in her upper body. And is it more on the right or the left side? Does it matter with lymphedema?
It doesn't matter. We don't see one versus the other, one side versus the other. Usually it occurs on the side of mastectomy, removal of the breast tissue, or removal of lymph nodes to check and see if there's cancer in the lymph nodes. So usually it occurs on the side. Like if that were removed from the left side of the breast, then usually the left arm would swell. But it can happen anywhere.
All right, so let's talk about some of the complications that come along with having lymphedema. You all mentioned earlier about protecting the skin from breaks, bruises, bumps. Again, I could speak forever and a day on those things, but the complications, worst case scenario, you get a scratch in your skin, there's bacteria into your bloodstream. What can happen?
Well, that's the biggest implication for patients with lymphedema is infection. Because that's what sends you to the hospital more than likely, right? Because you can't get rid of it on your own. Your body cannot rid the infection once it sets in on its own. You have to have antibiotics, and usually IV antibiotics works the best. But the infection, the bacteria can enter the skin, like you said, from just a scratch. Like just bumping your arm on a tree, or just bumping your arm on, if you're out working, anything, scratching your hand, the bacteria can enter into the skin from just one little opening. And the bacteria love the protein that's sitting inside in that fluid. So they feed on that and thrive on that. So, and then it just spreads from there. So, and antibiotics is the only way to treat that. So you would definitely need to get to your doctor as soon as you see any kind of signs of redness of the skin, heat coming from the skin, so it's hot to touch, there any oozing of fluid from the skin, so those are big signs of infection.
And living in this part of the country, we really caution people about mosquito bites as well. Making sure that you have your sprays and lotions or whatever it is that can help you manage that. And to definitely wear your garments as prescribed by your therapist to help protect and all of that. So just in addition to even shaving, we recommend using an electric razor and not a regular blade to try to help prevent some of those nicks and cuts that come along with using a traditional razor. So just little hints like that can be real helpful.
All right. Yeah. And so again, if you notice anything going on with your body, please go to your doctor and get that checked out. Anyone that I can save from going through what I've dealt with concerning infections, I've spent a week in a hospital here and there. I've spent up to 20 plus days in a hospital, because other complications came along with it. So another thing that happens if you don't get treated is your body, the toxins set up in your body, and you can get what they call septic. So explain that for me a little bit.
Want to take that?
I haven't seen really those cases of sepsis, but any type of infection in your body, you're at risk of that. So the thing that we really want to educate people about is we want to reduce that swelling. This is a protein-rich fluid, and it is a great breeding ground for bacteria, which causes people a lot of issues with ulcers and cellulitis and as such of that. But anytime you run the risk of a type of systemic infection, then you can put yourself in a position for sepsis. Even though I haven't seen that case in my time of treating as a lymphedema therapist, infection is nothing to take lightly. We need to make sure that if you've got an infection, you need to get somewhere and get that treated.
Okay. All right, so let's kind of switch gears and talk about the psychological aspect of this, because now this patient has this condition that even though there are a lot of people that deal with it, there's not enough research and information or specialists out there to treat all the patients. Wherever the specialists are, they're either another state from where that patient lives or in another country that patient may not can get to. So let's talk about the psychological aspect. Not to talk about your patient's personal, give away personal information about your patients, but the different ones you've seen over the course of your time at the clinic, at the hospital. What has been some of the things they've expressed to you?
I think one of the most difficult things is the realization that there's not a cure for lymphedema. And we really encourage people, there's not a cure for lymphedema, but we can help treat it and help you manage it. And it is a process of managing it a lifetime. And just the encouragement from that aspect of it. But for any of us, if we have something wrong, I want something better yesterday. And we experience those things where we have conditions that there's not a cure for. We just have to learn how to manage it. And I think that is hard for people to understand. It does take some effort to staying consistent and doing your treatments that we teach you to do, the self-MLD, after the treatment is done, wearing your garments as prescribed, because that is just critical. If we take you through the program and you go through treatment, but you don't carry over wearing your garments and doing the aspects of the treatment that we've taught you, then the reoccurrence of back to that level of where you were is heartbreaking. Honestly. So it is the level of compliance in this program is tremendous, as with any treatment. But I think one of the biggest challenges is just realizing that there's not a cure.
Yeah, and helping the patient understand that, there's medications for every illness that we have except for lymphedema. And just helping them to understand that their compression and their manual lymphatic drainage is their medicine. I tell them, this is your medicine that you do every day. This is what you're taking to help manage your lymphedema. So, if I can get that through to them, it helps and it puts a positive aspect on their lymphedema, and they think, I can do this. I can manage it myself. We teach them to self-wrap. We teach them how to put their garments on and wear them correctly. We teach them how to do the manual lymphatic drainage for themselves daily. And so we really stress that this is a daily routine. Put this in your daily routine because it's your medicine.
And I am, even though I advocate, I am the biggest. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do.
Non-compliant. Okay.
Yeah, I'm guilty of not complying.
Yeah.
We can make up all the excuses in the world why we don't do.
Right.
But no excuse is going to cover up that we need to follow up with it. We that suffer with this, and I hate to use the word suffer, live with this, need to do what we need to do to maintain our life and find our new normal.
Yes.
Instead of causing more problems.
Right.
Another thing though that goes with that a lot of people who don't deal with this don't know is how much supplies cost, how much treatment costs, what insurance will and will not cover. We're going to get ready for a break. When we come back, I want to get a little bit more into that and discuss briefly the Lymphedema Treatment Act that is trying to advocate for patients to get the treatment they need as other people with other chronic illnesses. Lymphedema seems to be on the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to getting the attention and care that it needs.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get too deep into that conversation because I don't want us to get cut off, but I'm really happy that you all are here to shed some light on this information, and hopefully again someone is walking away with a deeper understanding and they're having these conversations with their family members. Real quickly, have you noticed any difference in age, race, or anything, or is it just across the board? Lymphedema does not discriminate anywhere.
It does not discriminate.
Okay.
It does not.
All right. I want to say good morning to Ms. Queen of Water Smith and Moselle Maddox for joining us, and hopefully you're taking away some information. But stay tuned. We'll be right back after these announcements.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. The Federal Trade Commission continues to warn consumers to watch out for fake debt scams. Here are some tips from the FTC to protect yourself from this type of scam. If someone calls to collect a debt you don't recognize, request the caller's name, company, street address, and telephone number. In some cases, asking for this information will be enough to cause a scammer to hang up. Refuse to discuss the debt until you receive a validation notice, which includes the amount owed, the name of the creditor you owe, and your rights under the Federal Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. If an address is provided, send a letter requesting the caller to cease contact. Do not provide the caller with personal, financial, or other sensitive information, and do not be intimidated into giving it up. Hang up and contact your creditor directly about the suspicious calls and find out who or if the creditor has authorized someone to collect the debt. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization focused on joy in our sisterhood, power in our voice, and service in our hearts. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by the Gears Foundation, a nonprofit organization providing students with assistance in their academic and career pursuits. Gears Foundation on Facebook, Gears_Inc. on Instagram, and the Gears Foundation at gmail.com.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. 5 locations in Jonesboro to serve you. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
KLEK thanks CJ Pepper and the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com.
Check out Melvin Williams of the Williams Brothers every Sunday morning from 5 to 7 a.m. here on KLEK for the Melvin Williams Down Home Gospel Radio Show, playing the very best in quartet and inspirational gospel music that you'll love, as well as feature interviews with all of your favorite gospel artists. It's Melvin Williams Down Home Gospel Radio Show, Sundays from 5 to 7 a.m. on KLEK 102.5 FM.
The Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated was established on January 1st, 1977, originally serving Blytheville, Arkansas, and now serving Jonesboro, Blytheville, Osceola, Marion, and West Memphis, Arkansas. Today, the chapter continues to make an impact by focusing on Alpha's national community outreach initiatives such as My Brother's Keeper, A Voteless People is a Hopeless People, Go to High School, Go to College, Project Alpha, Boy Scouts, and the March of Dimes. The Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is committed to Alpha's mission of developing leaders, promoting brotherhood and academic excellence, while providing service and advocacy to the community. More information about the Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is available at MOL Alphas on Facebook or via email at molalphas@gmail.com.
Experience the joy with Bishop Adrian R. Rogers, pastor of Fullness of Joy Church, 2120 Thorn Street, Jonesboro, Arkansas, 72401. Wednesday night, Word and Worship, 7 p.m. Prayer Thursday night at 7 p.m. Sunday School, 9:30 a.m. Sunday morning worship, 11 o'clock a.m. And our Sunday night live service at 7 p.m.
KLEK is starting a new fundraiser which will allow listeners to donate to KLEK while buying groceries. KLEK is a part of the Kroger Community Rewards fundraising program. When shoppers visit a participating Kroger and scan his or her Kroger Plus shoppers card, a portion of the savings goes back to KLEK to help keep it on the air. Details on how to sign up for the program are available at KrogerCommunityRewards.com and at KLEKFM.org. This is a KLEK fundraiser.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Welcome back to our last segment of Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I am so happy that I have these ladies here from Encompass Health Rehabilitation Hospital of Jonesboro joining me to share this information on lymphedema awareness. Today is one of our Beyond the Ribbon discussions, health awareness discussion on lymphedema. And I hope that everyone out there listening and watching our Facebook Live feed has taken something away from this discussion. And if you know someone who is dealing with this, living with this, please have a discussion with them. They're happy to talk to you so that you can have a deeper understanding and hopefully some compassion for what they're dealing with. So before we get into the Lymphedema Treatment Act, let's go back a little bit and talk about supplies, insurance, what's covered, what's not, and what can people do. Sometimes we feel hopeless when our insurance only gives us so many treatments or they don't pay for supplies. So let's talk about those aspects of lymphedema.
Well, insurance usually pays for a certain amount of therapy visits per year. So it just depends on the type of insurance that you have. But then as far as the garments, which you end up with after discharge, so when you're discharged you get garments that you wear daily. And that helps to compress the skin and keep the fluid manageable. Usually insurance does not pay for those, so those are usually paid for out of pocket. The providers for those garments can sometimes set up a payment plan for the garments because they tend to be a little expensive, as you know. So they've worked with us well to, and they're very nice to set up payment plans for our patients because they are expensive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another thing to be aware of is the garments, they last for a certain period of time. So in addition to the initial ordering of garments, we always like to have our patients check back in with the provider at least at 6 months to just check the integrity of those garments because they have to be replaced to ensure the effectiveness of the garment. So it's something that it's not just a one-time situation. It is something that you have to keep up with 6 months, 12 months of replacement.
So it's almost like you need a second or third job just to, take care of this. And unfortunately, it's not the patient's fault. It's not something they could have predicted. Right. It just happens to you, and you can't control it. And I'm trying not to, get too emotional here, but it's frustrating to say the least. You try to explain to people about the condition, they still kind of don't understand. They look at you a certain type of way. And then another thing that comes along with having lymphedema is, along with the psychological, it's the physical of the tiredness, the heaviness of your limbs. You literally are tired, and then extreme weather changes can affect how you feel day to day. And so all of those factors, it's like you wonder how you even get up, Sometimes you wonder, how do I even get up in the morning, So if you know someone that has this condition, please try to be a little more patient with them. And if they say, I can't, I don't, I'm not, just don't try to force them to do what you want them to do.
Well, and just to say that there is hope for this condition. There is treatment for it. I mean, we have patients who have lower extremity lymphedema who have not worn traditional shoes in some time, and it's so rewarding after they've gone through the treatment and they're fit for their garments. Now they're able to wear regular shoes and go back out into the community and do some things that they weren't able to do before. So I just really want to speak some words of encouragement that there is a way to manage this and to go about your life. So stay encouraged with that and be hopeful in that.
All right. Thank you so much. I do want to quickly talk about the Lymphedema Treatment Act. A group of individuals all across the United States. Each state has a group. And the groups are composed of people from all across that state to help raise awareness for lymphedema. They basically serve as lobbyists to your representatives that are in Washington. And so even if you don't have lymphedema, you know someone who does, either join the state team or become an advocate. Talk to your Congress people and tell them to back this act as it's going through Congress to be voted on. This can help many, many people across the world to get the treatments they need, more treatment, and hopefully get their insurance, Medicaid, whatever they have, to pay for their supplies. Yes, breast cancer is important, liver cancer, ovarian, other chronic illnesses. Let's put lymphedema up there on the top of that list as well.
Yes.
For patients that are dealing with this. I can't imagine what the babies are dealing with, when they start getting to the age of awareness, elementary, junior high, high school, they have a whole other list of issues that they deal with then. So I can't imagine what they deal with. And then for the elderly, they already have issues. So everyone at every stage of their life is dealing with this condition in their own way. And it can be a burden at times. So have a little compassion and understanding for individuals, and have a conversation before you make an assumption. That's my soapbox moment for today. So in our last minute, any final words of encouragement, advice, just any final words, Ms. Robin?
Visit lymphedematreatmentact.org, and you can sign up for helping to pass this legislation to improve the health benefits of individuals with lymphedema, so that they can get better payment for their garments and their, all the supplies that they need when they're going through treatment, and even after treatment, because that's what's important, the after treatment part of it. Yes, maintaining that loss.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any final words?
Yeah, just a word of encouragement. Don't give up. Don't settle. Keep seeking that medical advice to get a correct diagnosis and get into treatment, because as I said, there's not a cure, but there is a way for treatment and management of this so that you can go about and live your life and do the things that you want to do.
All right.
And we do have a lymphedema support group, as you mentioned earlier. It meets at Encompass Health the third Thursday of every month from 12 to 1. We have lunch, and it's just a good time to talk about lymphedema and get support.
All right. Thank you, ladies, and thank you, everyone. And have
Thank
a
you
very
for
blessed
listening
day.
to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and